Read this for me, Adam. Miners.
Miners are exploring 90 feet underground. The miners ascend in an elevator at a constant rate over 3 minutes, over a period of 3 minutes until they reach the surface in the coordinate grid, horizontal axis. Represents the time of minutes from miner starts.
Is there an inside joke I'm missing?
No, they're just stupid.
All right, we're gonna go professional, please. Finish.
The time in minutes from when the miners start ascending and the vertical axis represents the miner's elevation relative to the surface.
What point represents the miner's elevation at the beginning of the ascent? I'm going to read it again because there is a little bit of laughter. Miners are exploring 90 feet underground. The miners ascend in an elevator. Ascend means go up or down. Ascend means go up. Descend means go down. So we're going up in an elevator at a constant rate of 3 minutes until they reach the surface. They're exploring how many feet underground? 90 feet. So this point is the beginning of the ascent. 90 feet is at 0 minutes. Plot that point now. That's 90 feet. What point represents the miner's elevation at the end of the ascent? Where do they go to at the very end? Turn and talk to your partner in 10 seconds. Where do they end after it? What would that be? 3, 2, 1, go. And plot it if you have it. Make sure you look at the time. Kaylee, what is the ascent level going to be? Where do they end up at if they didn't die and like get trapped? They probably ended right at where? Wait, Saf, I'll take a hand. Yeah. After this B, we're gonna go back to A. Where do they end, Kaylee? Yeah, it's at the surface, which is just 0. So what point represents the miner's elevation? The point, and we actually have to put a point this time. So we're gonna go 3, 0. Over 3, up 0. 0 feet's the surface. Let's go back and fix this thing. Stan, what blunder did you catch? Yeah. And your point is going to be negative 90, 0. So you go down 90, you go over 0 because it's at the start. 0 minutes is where it's beginning. Connect the points with the line segments. It's 90, 0. It is not correct. It's 0, 90. Yeah. Sure. 0, negative 90. There's your 2 points. Connect the dots, and you just made a graph based on 2 points that you were given. What's the point where the graph crosses the y-axis at? Well, it crosses y at 0, negative 90. It crosses x. The x is the horizontal one, going this direction, at 3, 0. Today we're going to be looking at 2 points and solving problems with 2 points. The x and y-axis part is what we're going to be searching for today. So the y-axis was where it crosses the y part. The x-axis is where it crosses the x right here. And we found those 2 points. The y-intercept of a graph. Let's make this one black. Is the y-coordinate of the point where the graph intersects the y-axis? The x-coordinate of this point. Is always going to be 0. So an example of that is what you just found up here. The x-coordinate was 0 for the first part. It is 0, negative 90. That was your example you just saw. The second bullet point, the x-intercept of a graph is the x-coordinate of the point where the graph intersects the x-axis. The y-coordinate is going to be what for this one? Hattie? That's going to be 0. That is your 3, 0 coordinate you just found. So if you're trying to find the x and the y-intercepts and you're given an equation, you can find the vice versa, whatever one you're looking for, by plugging in the opposite one as 0. If we want to find the x-intercept, we're going to plug y in with a 0. So we'll have x as 3x minus 2. And when I get to y, well, since the y-intercept had a 0 here, the x-intercept had a 0 here, you're going to put a 0 in for y. So we're looking for the x-intercept, the y turns into 0. What does that do to this equation? What am I left with as my variable? You're left with x. The negative 2 times 0 just becomes 0, and it basically goes away. So you're left with 3x equals 6 as your equation. The whole goal of this is to get x by itself. So you have now x equaling 2, and your x-intercept is that coordinate pair 2, comma, what? 0. The y-intercept we already plugged in, or the x-intercept had a y value of 0. So the y value also has to be 0 for your point. Okay, that's your x-intercept. Let's find the y-intercept of this one. If I had the x-intercept where y equals 0, what's going to be 0 if I want to find the y-intercept? Indy. For what? X or y? Yeah, if we want to find y, we're going to cancel out the x. So 3 times 0 minus 2y. We're reversing this one, and you're going to figure out that y is left over, and y is the only variable that we're solving for. That turns into negative 2y equals 6. What's the value of y for this whole class? Is it 3 or negative 3, Stan? Stan? Yeah. Okay, there's your y value. What is the actual y-intercept point going to be? Give me a coordinate pair that works. Julia? So that was the x and the y differently, the x-intercept and the y-intercept. These are two different points. I'm not going to put a 2 in here. I know y is negative 3. The point that is x now is actually just 0. So your 2 points for this graph are 2, 0, and 0, negative 3. Just like we saw 2 points up here, we found the y-intercept and the x-intercept. Those 2 points allowed us to draw our graph. So this is just another way to graph an equation that they give you. Let's find the y and x-intercept for this one, Stan. I'm not going to count it as a blunder, but sure.
I could think of the y value for that one.
No. B. The x-intercept is what we're looking for first. If I'm looking for the x-intercept, what do I have to make y, Charles? If I'm looking for the x-intercept, is the x value or the y value going to be 0? Yeah. So this is negative 5x plus 6 times 0. You know those are going to cancel out and give you negative 5x equals 60. Zion, what's the value for x? I'll take a hand after we get to this. Yeah. What's the value of x? You guys don't have a calculator.
12.
You could still figure
12.
it out. Is it just
8 to
12? It's a negative. So your x-intercept is the point, negative 12, comma, whole class,
0.
0. That's always your x-intercept. 0 is plugging in for y. Hayden, question.
So can we just assume that the answer would be 0, so we can just delete that step and just get negative 5x is equal to
I want you to set it up and tell me that you plugged in y for 0. Just show me that step and then go out to canceling it. Okay, so that canceled and you're moving on to the third step. And the answer, Ava T, what is going to go in for 0 when I find the y-intercept? Yeah, x becomes 0. So negative 5 times 0 cancels it, plus 6y equals 60. 6y equals 60. Adam, what is the value of y? What's the y-intercept going to be? Yeah, you got it. Okay, so you found the x-intercept, circle it. The y-intercept, circle it. And you're moving on. Example 2, back to a word problem. Read it to us, please. Julia. In Albuquerque? Our instructions are to find and interpret, meaning we're going to give them 1, 2 sentences of the x and the y-intercept for the situation. And they're kind of giving us this, which is easier. You'll have problems on the test that don't actually give you the function. You'll need to sort through what they tell you in the word problem and come up with what is the y-intercept or the b value if you plug this into a slope-intercept form. What's your slope? Okay. Let's plug it in and get the x-intercept first. Well, what number am I going to plug in for y to find the x-intercept? Okay, let's do that. But I don't have a y here. I have an f of x. What can I do to make this into an equation? Stan? This is a function, and we kind of have been playing with both of them. Functions and equations are interchangeable. You can just plug in y equals wherever you see f of x equals. Y and f of x are the same. This is a function, that's an equation. Y equals 4500 minus 300x. Y and f of x are the same. So we want to find the x-intercept. Let's plug in a 0 for y. Simple two-step equation. Elia, what do I subtract first? Okay. Move that over. You get negative 300x equals negative 4500. And divide negative 300. Can anyone do that mentally? It's 15 even. Okay. X equals 15. What is the x-intercept, Indy? What's the x-intercept? That's the x value. Give me the intercept in a coordinate pair. Yep. Answer is always going to be a coordinate pair. If you circle this, you'll get docked at least a point on the test. Charles. So we moved it over because we were solving for x. Adam, did you want to answer that? Yeah, we subtracted it because I wanted to cancel it. You're solving for x for this one, so I'm moving everything to the left side to get x by itself. Negative 4500 was minus 4500 on both sides, and then you had to divide by a negative 300. Did you get that? Let's look at... No, I want you to show steps, but if you had to, so if you added 4500 here, Charles, to both sides, did I have a minus here? If I added it, we're not going to cancel the 4500 over here. It's going to become 4500 positive equals 9,000, and that wouldn't work. If you add it, do you see how those don't cancel anymore? So we need to subtract it. Subtracting it's going to cancel it. over here. Do you see it now, though? Okay. Let's get the y-intercepts. Caden, what am I going to plug in as a 0?
You put it in for
The x, perfect. So it's going to be y equals.
y equals 4,500 minus 300 times 0.
Okay. This time y is by itself, so this is actually easier than the other one. Y is equal to 4,500. What's the y-intercept, Kendall?
Oh, that's a blunder.
Nope, you didn't catch it.
We just caught it.
I fixed it before you caught
I
it.
caught it.
Nope.
No, I caught it.
Nope.
As you were making
And next time, Hayden, let the person I call him think. You jumped in, and if you wanted to answer, raise your hand. You're gonna do B on your own. Go. You got a minute. Find the x and y-intercept, and we'll jump back up and explain what it means for A and B. Zion, try this on your own. If you're finished early, go up to example A and try to make a sentence for what the 15,0 equals. What does 0, 4,500 equal? One sentence, just a statement below the red part. What does that actually mean? That's the interpret part of your answer. That's off topic. What is the x-intercept of this problem? Jasper. Mm-hmm. 25. Okay. $30? I think so. Silent yes, silent no. Looks right. So we subtracted by 750. That canceled the 750, and you get negative 25x on the right, negative 750 on the left. Divide by negative 25, and you get 30. I was not done. X equals 30. Your point's going to be 30, 0. What does that actually mean in this problem? What does that mean? Turn and talk, odds, you're starting, go. Hayden, sit up. The function, if x is 30. 3, 2, 1. What do you think this means? Ava T. So at 30 minutes, it was going up 25 meters per minute. X is per minute. So at 30 minutes, the hot air balloon's height is 0. At 30 minutes, the balloon is on the ground. And y-intercept, what's your answer for that one, Ava F? $750. Y equals 750. Minus 25 times 0, so that one is just 750. Your point is what, Ava F? And what does that mean in the real world? Give me a statement. So x was the number of minutes. So when there are 0 minutes, and this balloon's been going for 0 minutes, What's the height of it? Before it starts descending at 0 minutes, so before it descends, it is at what height? It's at 750 meters. So you're going to put a statement before the balloon descends. For the love of Pete, where's the red? There it is. Before the descent, the height is 750 meters. Meters. Okay, your answer is both.
Why'd you put 13?
It's is.
That's
It's an is. That's an is.
That's a 1.
That's an is.
That's a 13.
That is not an
Maybe for kindergarten.
Well, maybe I'm a kindergartner, Zion.
You're too big to be a kindergarten.
Are you, I'm a really smart kindergartner. I'm like my son. My 5-year-old son, he can't write his name or spell anything, but give him a number. And I have trained him to be the next elite mathematician. He can literally subtract, multiply, add, he can divide. Yeah. He's a 5-year-old. I just drill him dinner time. We're eating hamburgers, and I'm just like, son, what's 3 times 2? 6. If I give you another hamburger, what do you have? 2. If I give you a half a hamburger, 2.5. We got fractions and everything. He's a genius. Yeah.
Why do you want to do something in math?
Example 3. Okay, you actually have a graph. This time, you're just going to you're using intercepts to graph the line described by each equation. And you guys have a lot of different ways that you can create 2 lines or 2 points to get a line and graph it. Slope-intercept form was what you guys used all of 8th grade or your 7th grade year, but we're going to learn a few different ways. You are in this mindset, but we're going to start jumping into other ways to graph. One of the ways that is probably like it's not as oftenly used as a lot of others is finding the X and Y-intercept. And so if you just had to create 2 points using this method, here's what you do. Find the X-intercept first. To get the X-intercept, your Y is going to be 0. So you have Y as 0, and you're going to start plugging away and finding X. 1/2 times 0 is 0. You have a 2-step equation where you're trying to get X by itself to get that point. Let's move the 3 over by subtracting it. You have a fraction next to your X value. I want to get rid of that fraction. How do I do it? I have one last step.
Oh.
Hayden.
Flip it and flip, so it'd be 4 third.
Yeah. Take the reciprocal. 3/4, negative 3/4 becomes negative 4/3. Multiply it on both sides. We can make this negative 3 have a 1. And when you multiply by the reciprocal, on the right side, everything cancels out and leaves you with an X. On the left side, what does that simplify to? Is it negative or positive? 2 negatives make a positive, so that's going to be just positive 4. So X equals 4, your point is 4, 0. That's your X-intercept. Go over to 4, make a point. You have 1 point on a graph, but you need 2 to make a line. Let's get the Y-intercept. Charles, what am I going to plug in as 0 for the Y-intercept? You got it. It's always flip-flopped when you're released on your own today. Don't go so quick that you're just plugging in 0 for Y to find the Y-intercept. So 1/2 Y stays. 3 minus 3/4 becomes 3/4 times 0. And that's going to cancel. Indy, help me solve for Y. We got that. Canceled. What happened next?
Okay, then you
Do we want to divide it?
Or multiply it.
Multiply it by what?
2 over 1, right?
Yeah, let's multiply by the reciprocal. Your division starting that step wasn't wrong. It's just going to be a little more confusing. Cancel it out. What's left over?
6 equals 1.
Okay. Give me the point for the y-intercept, Adam. You got it. Plot that point. 0, positive 6 goes up here. We're counting by 2s. It didn't trick me. And you're going to draw a line that goes through both of those 2 points. And that is another method to graphing. That's your answer. Right on time. Get out your appointment clocks. We're going to do 10 minutes partners, 10 minutes independent. Bronze work is starting on number 1. Point to number 9 o'clock. Go. If you don't have a partner, a lot of absences, raise your hand, meet me over here.
I haven't even been to go, Carlos.
Shut up.
Whoa,
The dog part.
Watch yourself, what I do? Watch yourself.
You mean racist, Carlos?
Yeah, Charles.
Let's see.
You mean racist, Charles? Mexican. I have a very
Next team up for someone. Julia, are you with those?
I don't have a partner.
Can I move you to Kendall? Your partner's down.
They're gonna open the planner and then
Is that your partner? Are you going to?
Just the way you're all.
I said I did.
Haley, do you want to be?